As the anchor team, myself and our panelists are looking forward to talking to you about engage and engagement. Really, it's sort of about how to take seriously leveraging digital channels to talk with your customers, and also to really embrace the world of interactive marketing, a theme that obviously is running through the day. What's interesting from where I stand, having worked in interactive since 1995, is that everyone is actually coming up a level in terms of their understanding. You know, we used to have an expression, and it's still bandied around a little bit, which is looking at someone or looking at a company or looking at a campaign and saying, oh, do they get it? And I have to say, I've never really liked the expression that much because it sort of reminds me of a teenager talking about her parents. Oh, they just don't get it. Or perhaps looking at a Turner Prize winner and saying, it's a white room with a light going on and off. Don't you get it? The reality is the term "getting it" came from the real early days of the internet, when literally, if you had a digital camera, you were a pioneer. If you used a mobile phone, you were a pioneer. If you used a personal email account, if you actually said to a brand, I'm interested in checking my bank balance online instead of going into a branch, or I'd rather receive information about a new business application through email rather than through a mail pack, you were considered somewhat crazy. You were actually considered perhaps a geek. You're one of those, the geeks. We've actually heard it a couple times today. What's interesting is we're all geeks now, and it is a very real compliment. So we should all be proud of the fact that we can take our digital cameras and we can load our files onto our PC and we can upload them to the internet. If I were to ask, has anyone bought anything online to this audience, we'd probably have 90%, if not 99% of the people who would say most assuredly yes, and it wasn't a book on Amazon. I've bought complex things or expensive things or so forth. So it's a real change, and because we're all doing that, we should all feel comfortable in the fact, and not surprised at the fact, that digital marketing, interactive marketing, is so important and so prevalent, and the numbers that you see in the case studies. When you turn to our section on engage, you ask yourself, why are companies engaging, or why are they really taking interactive marketing so seriously? And I think the real reason, particularly after the contraction of 2001, 2002, is that it's very much more real this time. You're seeing real brands, real numbers. I did a little bit of looking around last night as I was preparing, and one of the facts to bring out some statistics was that in the US, retail web sales have topped $100 billion. That's about 136. What's interesting about that is over 40%, almost 50, of those transactions are done through traditional retailers. So that's not Amazon.com. That is The Gap. That is Saks Fifth Avenue. That's Bloomingdale's. They have grasped, they understand, they have engaged with e-retailing. Actually, just as an aside, when I worked in Interactive in 1995 in New York, 97, we worked on The Gap. And we had a small party when our e-commerce site topped the sales of one Gap store in Manhattan. We said, we've done it, we've passed a physical store, and we had a small celebration. Today, The Gap does 5% of its sales online. And to give you a sense of scale, that's about 300 average stores. You think about the cost of maintaining, running, staffing, depreciating, 300 full retail stores, and you realize why the e-commerce channel becomes quite important to them, and why they can put real budgets behind it. They can really commit to it. Here in the UK, Alliance and Leicester reported in their 2006 annual report that over 38% of their new retail banking products originated over the internet. It's not a surprise that in the press, in 2004, they admitted to spending £10 million on online advertising in the UK. Or it's not a surprise that when you look at Nielsen's numbers today, that over half, or it's 46% of all advertising online, this is display advertising, banners, skyscrapers, and the like, is for financial services. These are companies that measure. These are companies that are direct-minded. And these are companies that are pouring money into the internet simply because it works. As the last case, I wanted to bring up Lego. We've heard it already earlier today. So without delving into it, I would just ask that you take a look at how Lego really approaches interactive marketing. If you go to their website, yes, they have the communities, they have a forum, but they've also taken it, incidentally, as Nike did, with the Lego Factory, where you can build, share, and then order, have built for you, your own Lego model set. They have, with the Masterminds product, created forums where people are uploading their own creations with promotions behind it to drive activity. They've even gone so far as to build a Lego engineering community. Lego engineering is only for educators that use Lego products to teach engineering. So, perhaps it's a long tail approach. I don't know how many of those people are there, but the reality is it makes sense for Lego. And when you just take a look at the audience figures, they have 1.2 million people visiting lego.com on a monthly basis, spending on average 18 minutes. And I would love to do a presentation on how hard you have to work to get 1.2 million people engaged with your brand for 18 minutes through other channels. But without giving all of that away, and some of the things that our speakers are covering, I can say that there is a very simple theme that I think will run through our entire section and the case studies you're about to hear. And it's about commitment. It's about commitment because when you start a conversation, you can't walk off in 5 minutes after you get distracted. If you're talking to someone, and after 5 minutes they get distracted and stop talking back, you kind of find that the person you were talking to might have been a little rude. And it's a real issue that we face in interactive marketing, is that it does tend to be project-based. People do tend to come in and experiment and then disappear. And if you take a look at Nike Plus and some of the other cases that we'll be hearing today, you really do need to be committed to the channel. Because one of the things about websites, of course, is that they're persistent. They stay. It's not a campaign where you're in and out of media. They remain up there. And so you need to remain committed to them. But the last note before I Sam from the BBC is that having a digital agenda doesn't mean that you understand the difference between Java and .NET. It doesn't mean that you know the difference between a widget and an overlay. Having a digital agenda means very simple, that you don't let your digital marketing, your interactive marketing, fall off the agenda.